Hey warriors, welcome back to the channel. Before we begin, let me ask you a question. How many years of your life have you wasted trying to be liked, trying to be accepted, trying to please people who would abandon you the moment you stop serving them? Today we solve the disease that ruins destinies, the curse of people-pleasing. Tonight, we will tear that weakness from your soul, piece by piece. There is a silent addiction that weakens more people than fear, poverty, or failure combined. It is not a drug, yet it rewires the mind. It is not a weapon, yet it destroys ambition. And its name is the hunger for external validation. The need to be approved, accepted, and applauded by others feels harmless on the surface. You tell yourself you just want to be a good person, that you just don't want problems, that you're just being polite. But beneath those soft words lies a darker truth, one that Machiavelli understood centuries ago. When you depend on another's approval to feel worthy, you surrender the most valuable currency you possess, the authority to define yourself. Think about how many decisions in your life were not truly yours. How many times did you keep silent because you feared judgment? How many times did you say yes when your soul was screaming no? How often did you shrink yourself, not because you lacked potential, but because you feared disappointing someone who wouldn't sacrifice a minute for your happiness? External validation is not a harmless desire. It is a form of psychological slavery. You become a prisoner of other people's opinions, locked behind bars you built with your own hands. And here is the cruel irony. The more you chase approval, the less of it you receive. People do not admire those who beg for acceptance. They admire those who move with self-certainty, who act without seeking applause, who pursue their path regardless of who follows or turns away. The pleaser believes that bending will create harmony, but in reality it only creates vulnerability. People sense when you are ruled by their praise, and once they sense it, they use it. Not consciously, not maliciously, but naturally. Humans instinctively take advantage of anything that makes their life easier. If making you feel guilty gets them what they want, they will use guilt. If giving you temporary praise keeps you loyal, they will use praise. But neither of these things bring you respect. Machiavelli taught that reliance on the goodwill of others is the most fragile foundation a person can build upon. Because goodwill shifts, opinions shift. The crowd applauds today and condemns tomorrow. When you depend on these shifting winds, you live a life of emotional starvation, constantly waiting for someone else to feed your sense of worth. You become terrified of displeasing anyone because your identity is not rooted in core principles, it is rooted in how others perceive you at any given moment. This is why pleasers drown in anxiety. They live in a world where every expression, every reaction, every silence is a threat. Listen closely, external validation is the enemy of inner power. A person who needs applause cannot lead. A person who needs approval cannot set boundaries. A person who needs to be liked cannot pursue greatness. The opinions of others become chains that tighten every time you think of stepping into your true potential. You begin to operate from fear rather than strategy. You make choices not based on strength, but on the avoidance of discomfort. And when you avoid discomfort, you also avoid growth. Those who rise are those who stand firm in the storm of other people's opinions, not those who crumble under the weight of imagined judgment. Ask yourself this: whose life are you living? Your choices, your dreams, your behaviors, are they truly yours, or have they been shaped by years of trying to maintain peace with people who wouldn't notice if you disappeared? Are you acting from conviction or from fear of rejection? Because a person who fears rejection is already rejected by themselves. Machiavelli would tell you that the first victory you must win is the victory over your own need to be liked. Only then can you act with clarity. Only then can you move as a strategist, not as a servant. Only then can you change the trajectory of your life. There is a quiet lie that has been whispered into your mind since childhood. The lie that putting yourself first is selfish, that prioritizing your goals, your energy, your advancement somehow makes you immoral. Yet look closely at the world around you. The people who rise, the ones who shape their destiny rather than drift through it, all share one trait. They understand the power of strategic self-interest. This is not selfishness, this is not cruelty, this is the discipline of recognizing that your life is your responsibility and no one else will protect it for you. A people pleaser lives for others, a strategist lives for purpose. And Machiavelli would tell you that a person without purpose is easy to manipulate. When you put everyone's needs before your own, you may feel noble, but you also become predictable. Those around you learn that all they need to do is express disappointment, guilt, or subtle pressure, and you will abandon your plans to make them comfortable. You sacrifice your growth for temporary approval. You trade your ambition for a pat on the back. But the world does not reward those who shrink themselves to keep others at ease. The world rewards those who move deliberately, even when others do not understand. Strategic self-interest begins with a simple truth. You are the only one who carries the consequences of your choices. When you make a decision to please someone else, they move on with their lives, but you remain trapped in the outcome. When you give your time to someone who drains you, they leave energized while you are left empty. When you abandon your goals to satisfy another's expectations, they forget the moment, but you live with the regret. And regret becomes a slow poison. It teaches you that your needs are optional, your boundaries negotiable, your value secondary. And once you believe that, others believe it too. Machiavelli advised leaders never to rely on the goodwill of others, but on their own strength and strategy. This applies to you as well. Your life demands leadership, your leadership, and leadership requires prioritization. When you decide your goals matter, your time matters, your vision matters, you begin to act differently. You say no more often, not with cruelty, but with clarity. You stop over-explaining. You stop apologizing for wanting more. You stop justifying why you refuse to give pieces of yourself to people who offer nothing in return. When you act in your own interest, you become harder to manipulate because guilt no longer controls you. People pleasers give without being asked. Strategists give with purpose. People pleasers say yes out of fear. Strategists say yes out of calculation. Strategic self-interest is not about taking from others, it is about not allowing others to take from you endlessly. The pleaser empties themselves, the strategist preserves themselves, and preservation is power, because when you protect your energy, you protect your ability to succeed. When you prioritize your goals, you build momentum. And momentum is what separates those who dream from those who achieve. Understand this, you are not on this earth to be a background character in someone else's story. You are not here to be the emotional cushion for people who never consider your needs. You are not here to sacrifice your ambition on the altar of approval. You are here to rise, to build, to shape a life worthy of your potential. But that requires doing what pleasers fear the most, disappointing others. You must be willing to walk away from situations where your effort is taken for granted. You must be willing to stand firm even when people don't agree with you. You must be willing to choose yourself, not occasionally, not when convenient, but consistently. Because a life built on self-sacrifice leads only to resentment, exhaustion, and invisibility. Strategic self-interest sharpens your identity. It clarifies your path. It teaches people how to treat you. When you honor your priorities, others begin to honor them too. When you stop bending, the world adjusts, not immediately, but inevitably. And once you realize this, once you taste the power of acting according to your own design rather than someone else's comfort, you begin to see how much of your potential was buried beneath the endless duty of pleasing everyone but yourself. There is a truth most people never realize about human behavior. Every interaction, every conversation, every exchange carries a subtle negotiation of power. People pleasers lose this negotiation before it even begins. Not because others are stronger, but because pleasers walk into every situation holding their emotions like an open book, exposed to anyone who wants to read or exploit them. And once someone can read your emotions, they can steer them. They can influence them. They can use them to manipulate your decisions without ever raising their voice. This is why Machiavelli warned that a person who cannot command their own emotions will always be ruled by the emotions of others. Think about how it happens. You walk into a room already worried about what others think of you. You adjust your tone, your posture, your words, trying to create a response you hope will be positive. But this effort is not invisible. People sense when your confidence is dependent on their reaction. They sense when your mood rises or falls based on their approval, and once they sense this, the power shifts instantly. It doesn't matter if they mean well or not. Human nature gravitates toward influence. If someone realizes that a disappointed sigh can make you change your mind, they'll use it. If they learn that your guilt is the easiest button to press, they'll press it. Not always consciously, but effectively. Authority is not about dominance or aggression. Authority is the art of emotional sovereignty. People respect those whose emotions are self-contained, controlled, and deliberate. When you walk into a conversation anchored in your own presence, without seeking validation, you change the entire dynamic. Your lack of desperation makes people listen. Your calmness becomes weight. Your silence becomes meaningful. And your boundaries become non-negotiable. People pleasers try to win influence through likability, but likability without authority becomes servitude. Influence requires respect, and respect requires emotional mastery. Machiavelli taught that a leader must be a master of his own nature because the world is filled with people who will use your emotions as leverage if you let them. This is not a paranoid view, it is a realistic one. The person who controls their emotions controls their interactions. Those who cannot control themselves end up being controlled by situations, environments, and people. Stronger personalities. This is why pleasers often feel drained around others. They give away emotional energy without realizing it. They let others set the tone. They let others dictate the mood. They let others determine whether they feel valued or insignificant. And this emotional outsourcing weakens them more than any conflict ever could. To gain authority, you must first learn to treat your emotions as private property. Not everyone deserves access to what you feel. Not everyone should know when you're uncertain, hurt, confused, or overwhelmed. Emotional transparency may make you appear honest, but it also makes you predictable, and predictable people are easy to manipulate. Authority is built through controlled expression. Say only what strengthens your position. Reveal only what serves your intention. Express emotion only when it aligns with your strategy, not when it erupts from fear or insecurity. This does not mean becoming cold or unfeeling, it means becoming sovereign. It means understanding that your emotions must answer to you, not to the reactions of others. When you respond rather than react, when you pause instead of panic, when you speak with intention instead of impulse, you shift from being influenced to becoming influential. People begin to treat you differently. They choose their words more carefully, they respect the space you hold, and most importantly, they stop assuming they can sway you with guilt, pressure, or disappointment. Authority is the shield that protects you from social manipulation. The moment you stop giving your emotional power away, you become a different presence entirely. People no longer pull you into their storms because they realize your mind cannot be stormed. They cannot provoke you because your reactions are not free to access. They cannot confuse you because your clarity does not depend on their approval. You begin to move through the world with a quiet, unshakable strength that requires no explanation and no permission. There comes a moment in life when a person finally realizes that being agreeable has not protected them. Being soft has not earned them loyalty. Being endlessly available has not created the respect they hoped for. And in that moment, something breaks. Something old, something weak, something submissive. This is the moment transformation begins. But transformation does not start with anger or rebellion. It begins with clarity, the clarity that the world does not reward those who bend too easily. Machiavelli understood that power is never given freely, it is taken by those who no longer tolerate being overlooked. A submissive person lives in reaction. They respond to the world rather than shaping it. They shift their tone depending on who's in the room. They adjust their identity to avoid conflict. Every choice is made to keep peace with people who wouldn't hesitate to disturb theirs. This submissiveness is not born from kindness. It is born from fear. Fear of rejection, fear of confrontation, fear of being misunderstood. But fear has never built anything of value. It is confidence, boundaries, and an unwavering sense of self that create influence. And until you adopt these qualities, you will remain trapped in the exhausting cycle of trying to please everyone while pleasing no one, including yourself. Transformation into dominance is not an act of aggression. It is an act of reclaiming authority over your life. Dominance begins quietly, not with loudness, but with decisions. The decision to stop apologizing for existing, the decision to speak with certainty rather than hesitation, the decision to say no without shrinking, the decision to prioritize your goals instead of sacrificing them for temporary approval. These choices build a new internal foundation. And once that foundation becomes solid, your presence changes. You no longer chase acceptance. You no longer negotiate your worth. You no longer feel guilty for wanting more from life than comfort and compliance. A dominant person does not dominate others, they dominate themselves. They master their impulses, their fears, their doubts. They choose their reactions rather than surrendering to them. They set boundaries with precision, not emotion. And this self-command naturally influences how the world responds to them. Humans are biologically inclined to respect those who appear internally strong. We are drawn to certainty. We follow conviction. This is why a once submissive person, when they begin to stand tall, suddenly notices a shift in how others treat them. The very people who once took them for granted now pause before asking for favors. The same individuals who dismissed their opinions now consider their words. Respect follows strength the way shadows follow light. But transformation also requires loss. You will lose the version of yourself who tolerated too much. You will lose relationships built on your compliance. You will lose habits that once soothed you but in reality suffocated you. And although this loss feels uncomfortable, it is necessary. Machiavelli knew that evolution demands disruption, that a new identity cannot be built on the foundation of old weaknesses. You must be willing to let parts of yourself die so that the strongest parts can emerge. This is why true transformation feels like a rebirth, because it is. As you shift from submissive to dominant, your energy becomes less chaotic and more intentional. You stop explaining yourself to those who have already decided not to understand you. You stop engaging in arguments that drain you. You stop giving your time to people who do not value it. Dominance gives you the clarity to see what is worth your effort and what is not. It sharpens your vision. It lifts your standards. It protects your spirit from being pulled into battles that do nothing for your growth. You begin to conserve your power instead of scattering it. People who once expected you to be silent will feel unsettled when you speak with strength. Those who grew comfortable with your submission will feel threatened by your boundaries. This is natural. When you stop bending, people feel the shift in their ability to influence you. But that discomfort is proof that your transformation is working. The world is adjusting to your new identity, and once you commit to this identity, once you embody self-respect so fully that others sense it before you speak, you become someone who is not just seen, but acknowledged, not just heard, but followed. You have walked through the darkest truths a person can face, truths that strip away illusion and expose the weakness that people-pleasing plants inside the human heart. What you have heard is not comfort. It is not meant to soothe you, it is meant to free you. Because no transformation begins with softness. It begins with confrontation, confronting the parts of you that kneel when you should stand, that whisper when you should speak, that sacrifice yourself for people who would never bleed for you in return. Each truth revealed was a blade, cutting away the submissive identity that has held you down for years. You have confronted your addiction to approval, learned the sharp necessity of choosing yourself, discovered the power of emotional authority, and awakened the dormant strength that can rise only when you refuse to live as a servant to other people's expectations. These lessons are not theories, they are weapons. Use them, carry them, live them. Because once you understand how power works, once you see through guilt, manipulation, pressure, and expectation, you can never return to the fragile version of yourself that depended on the kindness of others to validate your existence. That version of you is gone now. It had to be. You cannot become unbreakable until you destroy the part of you that was willing to break for anyone. You now stand at the threshold between who you were and who you are becoming. And the world will not adjust for you. You must adjust for it. Walk forward with boundaries that do not bend, with emotions governed by intention, with self-respect so firm that no rejection can shake it. From this point on, you are no longer shaped by the expectations of others. You shape yourself. The transformation has already begun.